Artificial intelligence in medicine raises legal and ethical concerns.
Is this on?
Nice. Did you read it through? Yeah. What were some of the concerns? Discrimination. You can move it back if you like, Andy, a bit. Just check the screen to make sure it gets my good side. Yeah. Discrimination. Okay, that's an interesting one. Do you know why? Discriminate. Yeah, cool. Arif, what was your headline?
Mine was the Joe Rogan, Elon Musk podcast.
Elon Musk podcast? Yeah. Okay, cool. August?
Changing my mind about AI, universal basic income, and the level data.
That sounds very relevant. Nice one. Have you got access to Facebook here?
Yeah.
Can you post it to our Facebook? That'd be really good. And guys, if you can, post it to Facebook, whatever your article is. Jordan, what was yours?
Is Australia headed for a robot tax? Government urged to adopt a new approach to the future of work.
Nice one. Is Australia headed for a robot tax? That's exactly what we were talking about the other day. Yeah. Nice one.
Channel 7.
Universal basic income, what is it, who would pay for it, and how would it impact the economy?
Did you read it?
Yeah.
Are you for a universal basic income or against it now after reading that?
I'm more confused about how the world works.
Sure, fair enough. Yep.
AI in war.
AI and more?
In war.
In war?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So what, did you read it? What did it say?
It's just like drones.
Yeah.
We're developing new drones that can fly around.
In AI swarms?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty scary stuff. Yep, nice. Evan, did you have one? Did you want to cover? That's right, Eric?
I didn't have one.
That's right, Evan?
Yeah, I had one.
Did you just steal Daniel's? Or?
Mine.
What was yours?
Mine.
That's not yours.
Do you remember your headline? I'll come back. Vic, what was yours?
I had a robot that managed to pass the Euro science exam.
Oh, cool. Like by doing its own research and stuff? A robot that can pass the science exam. Have you guys heard of the Turing test?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Turing was this guy, really smart computer scientist guy, and he said that a robot should be counted as intelligent and even should maybe be counted as a person with like rights and things if you have a conversation with this thing, like behind a screen, yeah, if you can't tell, and he said if you can pull like 3 out of 5 judges, if the judges can't tell whether it's a computer or a human having a conversation, like a 10-minute conversation, then that should count as a computer. I mean, that should count as a person, sorry. Does that make sense to everyone? So basic like, you guys know like the Domino's bot on Facebook or Twitter or whatever? You guys know that? Like, you're like, hey, I want a Hawaiian pizza. And you're like, oh, hello, Daniel. Where is your address? Yeah. Well, there's these bots now that can sufficiently trick people into thinking that they're more people than other real people are. So the judges will be like, honestly, I can't tell which one's a computer and which one's a person. A bot just passed the Turing test not too many years ago, which is kind of interesting. Most people agree that that's still not a person, but it gets really interesting. Dan, what was yours?
We had the same article, but we found it on a different site, so I can provide some more analysis into it, I guess.
Okay.
The questions in the test that the robot passed were, a lot of them were of logic and reasoning as well.
Yep.
So, do you want me to get it up and just, well, I don't remember like all of it.
We'll just briefly go through the headlines, I think, rather than doing a deep dive. But all of this is really interesting stuff. Jeremy, what was yours?
Artificial intelligence is changing every aspect of war.
Yep, war again, nice. Kevin?
Universal basic income being California.
Yeah, cool. Okay, did you read it?
No.
No, that's alright. Andy?
I don't have one.
Do I have one, Danny?
Come on, Dan. Behind the rise of China's facial recognition guns.
Ooh, interesting.
Do you know about that?
A little bit.
How this in the airport they have like security cameras, artificial intelligence, and they can recognize everyone's face.
Yeah.
They can scan it and they can tell where they were born, like all personal information, how many kids they have, where they work. It's like basically a mini database
Yeah.
in the airport, and then basically everyone's lives are exposed.
Yeah, totally. Do you guys think you're in facial recognition software?
Yeah.
I'm not conspiracy theorist, but
Did
yes.
anybody use that face change app that made you look old?
Oh,
Did you
that.
guys use that?
No.
I used
Imagine if
it.
Jeremy used that.
Did you guys know that it's actually that was run by
Come on, bro.
that app was made by a Russian facial recognition software group. So they're like a Russian company, and they're gathering faces to train their facial recognition software to get better at recognizing people through CCTV around the world. Recently in Israel, they signed up a company from, I can't remember from what country, but they signed them up, and the thing was that their facial recognition software was so good that you wouldn't need like a marquee anymore. So you can just walk into the train station, you just walk on the train, the camera sees you get on the train, it just debits from your credit card or whatever. So you never have to buy a ticket again, you never have to do any of that stuff. You can imagine going to a supermarket where you just take the stuff off the shelves and then you just walk out with it to your car. Yeah? And it just charges you for the things that you grab because facial recognition software, right? That's the idea, that's the dream. But what Israel didn't know was that the government just sort of signed up to this thing without really reading the terms and conditions.
Oh, no.
And actually it was another Russian facial recognition software company, and they're trying to gather basically facial recognition information on everyone around the world, so that if they ever need to know who anyone is, they can track you. And so they keep on giving all these contracts to different companies and governments around the world
That's where the Germans
to find out who you are. I think it's highly likely that my face is in at least 7 different facial recognition databases around the world.
like, find this man.
Yeah.
comes to and
Yeah. Which maybe is a problem. Yeah, they'll be like, there's a philosopher, don't let him into Russia. Who knows? We're on 228. Let's go to 228. Let's keep reading through. It'd be great to try and finish today. Just gonna turn the lights on.
He just told you that.
Karen, why do you have a crush on
Alright.
That's a rumor.
Section 228.
Huh?
Me?
No, Kevin.
What do you say? He has a crush on me.
Alright, it's a pretty dense little section. But basically, this is just like this section 228 is just a massive burn against boring philosophers. Okay, so let's have a read and find out how. May I be forgiven the discovery that all moral philosophy before now has been boring and soporific. What's a soporific? Something that puts you to sleep. Yeah, like a hot chocolate or something puts you to sleep, right? It's like a drug that puts you to sleep. Nietzsche is saying all moral philosophy before him, and he's very well educated in Socrates and Plato, has been boring and sleep-inducing. And that virtue has, in my eyes, been harmed by nothing more than it has been by this boringness of its advocates. Yeah? Moral thought is useless, mostly because the people doing moral thought are really boring, sleep-inducing people. Like whenever I go to a lecture on morality, I really struggle to pay attention because I just go to sleep.
That's immoral.
Surely that's like a...
In saying which, however, I should not want to overlook their general utility. It's like, oh, but actually this is a really useful feature. Yeah? It's important that as few people as possible should think about morality. As few people as possible should think about morality. Consequently, it's very important that morality should not one day become interesting. Nietzsche is saying that no one should be thinking about morality. We don't want that to happen. So actually, the best thing we can hope for is that it's so boring that nobody cares. Nice. Yeah, let's keep reading. But do not worry, it's still now as it has always been. I see no one in Europe who has, or spreads, any idea that thinking about morality could be dangerous, insidious, seductive. that fatality, like life or death, could be involved. No one seems to think that morality is like vitally important. Yeah. Consider, for example, the indefatigable, which means untiring, inevitable English utilitarians. We know what utilitarians are, remember that? So people who aim at maximising utility, which usually, and for these English people, is happiness. Utilitarianism is about maximising happiness. You're saying that these untiring, inevitable English utilitarians, and with what clumsy and worthy feet they stalk, if I can make metaphors more plainly, along in the steps of Bentham. Bentham is just a famous English utilitarian. You could write that in a little note, maybe. Just as he himself had walked in the footsteps of the worthy Helvetius. No, he was not a dangerous man, this Helvetius. The senator, something, as Galliani called him. If someone wants to look that up, that might be interesting. I don't know what that last word means. No new idea, no subtle expression or turn of an old idea, not even a real history of what had been thought before. An impossible literature altogether, unless one knows how to read it. Leave in it, like sift through it with a little malice. What's malice? Evil intent, like cruelty or evil intent, or like a bit of antagonism, right? Like to be able to read anything that's about moral philosophy from the English utilitarians, you have to read it knowing that they're a bit dumb and boring. That's the only way you're going to get any value out of it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Does malice also mean like malice at the palace? You remember that?
I don't know what that is.
Never mind.
Malice at the palace. What is that?
Detroit and Indiana plays a big
yeah, sure.
It's called Malice at the Palace.
Nice, Malice at the Palace. Sounds like a boxing.
Rumble in the jungle.
Rumble in the jungle.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay.
Anyway.
Shall we write really briefly some quick notes for 228?
Don't forget 4-0,
morality,
That's good. That's good.
especially utilitarianism.
Why are you guys laughing? We beat them 4-0.
Malice at the Palace.
You got a screw bug. That's what you are. You got a screw bug.
That's good.
Is really boring.
Shut up, Kevin. You can't talk, Kevin.
This
Otherwise, it's working. You have
is
no right to talk.
right.
Talking.
Nietzsche.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Or write the notes down and be quiet. Malice at the Palace.
Nietzsche doesn't want the boring morality of happiness
I'll do the Palace sentence.
to become
How many privileges do you have again?
seen.
Who?
You.
Oh, it's to become popular.
Shut up.
What's
that even?
It's the best known way.
What a burn this is, hey? It's like everyone knows that maths isn't important for any student, but the good news is maths teachers are super boring and no one cares. Yeah, that's the kind of argument Nietzsche's making. Now, I think maths is actually a bit important, although I have questions about how important Year 12 maths is for everyone. But probably maths teachers have questions about the importance of philosophy too, so that's only fair.
Philosophy is better than maths, so don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I won't worry about it.
Mister, imagine the philosophy exam. It wasn't based on any philosophy, it was just your thoughts. And they
Just-
asked you questions what you think, and you had to give an answer, and you had to give evidence for that. And if they thought it was good enough, then they'll give you marks. Put it in.
Imagine that.
Can you
That'd be
imagine
cool as.
that? Can you
That'd
imagine
be
someone
good.
gets a 50 raw on that? Like, they'll be
Cool
pretty
as.
like,
Yeah, me.
no, that's how philosophy should be like, bro.
That is how philosophy should be. I totally agree.
I don't care about other people's
Might it helps the base.
Well, Malice at the Palace.
Camera, yeah, watch.
I'll do this on camera.
Into the phone.
Don't get it twisted.
I'll do
James has a better conversion rate than Summer.
it. Okay.
Cool.
Are you on 12
Go
points?
ahead, on your bike.
That's a really good question. A really good point. The ideal philosophy exam, in my opinion, well, I don't hate the way it is at the moment, but probably what would be better is some sort of dialogue where a bunch of examiners sat with a bunch of students, maybe one student at a time, but probably more than one. And you just did a dialogue like Plato or Socrates or Callicles do, and you got to argue back and forth. Yeah? So you can imagine an exam where Abdul and Jeremy and an examiner just have to argue about what makes the good life, right? Now, if that conversation just gets really distracted by whether Manchester United or Liverpool is better, that's not going to be good philosophy, right? But if they can use the idea of working really hard at perfecting your art, like becoming a good soccer player, etc., then that would be good philosophy, and that would demonstrate really good skills, right? And then the extent to which they agree and disagree and why would be what they get marked on for their philosophy exam. In a way, that is what you're getting marked on. You just don't get to do it in a dialogue, right? But your essay is about showing you understand the basic ideas of the people that we've read. Actually, not even the basic ideas, the detailed and complex ideas of the people that we've read, right? You have to demonstrate as comprehensive and understanding as possible. But then, to get really good marks in the essay section, well, especially, but almost only in the essay section, though there's some scope for it earlier, you have to tell us what you think. You have to develop your own idea, develop your evaluation, right? Your evaluation is where you get to say what you think the good life is. Maybe you agree that most people shouldn't think about morality. You have to tell us why. Yeah? Doing your part. And that is really good philosophy. Personally, if we weren't doing an ATAR or anything, yeah, if we didn't have to sit an exam at the end of the year, I would finish reading Nietzsche, we might do Wolf, and then I would just bring in a bunch of articles and we would just talk about all the articles about current day society and the way that we should live in current day society for the rest of the year, right? Now, unfortunately, we have an exam, so we're going to do that, but only half the time we're going to do that, and then the other half the time you're going to write practice essays and things like that.
Whoa!
Good enough.
That's still pretty good. Yeah. All right, we ready to keep going? All right, for into these moralists too, one whom has to read with mental reservations, if one has to read them at all. Like if you're going to have to read Bentham on utilitarianism, well, you should read it like but holding it at arm's distance. Yeah, well, don't hold it too closely. There has crept that old English vice called Kant, which is moral tartuffery. What do you reckon the word tartuffery means?
You know, it's in a clue.
Tough, not tough.
It's not tough.
Flowery.
Flowery, good. Flowery, frilly ridiculousness, right? The idea of Kant for Nietzsche is moral, flowery ridiculousness. Yeah?
Right.
Can someone else tell me what that means? What does that mean that the idea of Kant is moral ridiculousness? As in cannot or should not. Why is a thou shalt command ridiculous to Nietzsche?
It ignores the grey areas. For example, if you do not kill, you may need to kill somebody to save our own.
Totally, right? Some moral systems like deontology says that you can never lie, you can never kill. You can't do this, you can't do that. Yeah? Don't speak when you're not spoken to. Don't stand up, don't be a bad citizen. Yeah, you can't do those things. And Nietzsche says that's ridiculous. Of course I can.
You can't stop me.
Exactly, that's the more relevant point, right? You can't stop me is what Nietzsche would say. Yeah? And then to that, he would hope that you would say, of course I can. Because Kant is moral tartuffery, right?
No, I can't catch you.
I can't stop you, right? Alright, so Kant, this time concealed in the new form of scientificality. I'll explain that in a second. There are also signs of a secret struggle with pangs of conscience, from which a race of former Puritans will naturally suffer. Puritanism was an idea in English, especially English morality, but wider European morality, that was about being totally pure and not doing anything impure. And it was a really rule-based system, so it'd be like, good people live on what they need. Does that make sense? And then those people would only ever eat bread and cheese and nothing else. Chocolate was like of the devil. Does that make sense? Yeah, and I don't just mean like of the devil, I mean like if you find someone eating chocolate, you should put them in jail for 3 years. That's like how full-on Puritans were. Yeah? These are real people, by the way. Imagine doing that.
Surely they're not around anymore.
Not really, although Puritanism is kind of present within our society in a different form. Yeah? So they don't get to put people in jail anymore if they're eating chocolate.
It's like the Amish in that.
No, not really. No. Amish are actually not very Puritan necessarily. The Amish have a bunch of rules, right? Do you guys know the Amish?
Yeah.
They're a bunch of people that don't really use technology because they don't think it adds to their lives, right? It's actually really relevant for us in our debates because some people think they live much happier and maybe better lives than we do.
Right.
Does that make sense? Talk about it briefly with the person next to you. It's a bit of a tangent. It's a bit of a side topic. But do you think if we all lived without any technology, our lives might in some way be better or not?
I lost my phone for hours.
Yes, it would be better. We socialize more.
So you're 40 hours searching on your phone.
And how was the mouse up to power?
I lost my phone for an hour. And I was like, panic episode.
Are you like,
no, I couldn't stop. I was playing basketball.
You guys don't know anything.
what?
You guys don't know the potential of Daniel James. You've got
Funny
like
topic about the
essential.
phone. Holy shit.
I was gonna make some out and
Potential.
That's why I can say what you want to
Oh, you got
what else
a
do you want me to
Dad,
say?
Tammy Abraham has better potential than Daniel James.
No, he doesn't.
Yes,
James is the brightest Premier League.
Abraham
Daniel James,
and-
look at his pace. His pace is like the fastest.
It's Abraham,
Hey, you
the
know who
Mount.
else has pace? Dumbia.
Huh?
What happened to him?
That's what the commentators are saying.
Aside topic becomes.
He is the fastest player in the Premier League. United have got a bargain from Swansea.
Alright, cool, you can be fast, but you're gonna need
Like a Bamian.
Yeah, but he's actually quality.
And his finishing is
Alright. Does anyone think our lives would be better without
better than
technology?
Kane as well. Currently.
Can you explain why, Dan?
Well, it will take time for us to, it will take time for it to be, like, give us a better life because by the time, like, let's say a year without technology, we will get used to, like, no technology at all and it will become, like, a better life.
Why would that be better?
Because we'll find a way to, like, cope without, adjust without technology and we'll find, like,
What do you mean by technology? Like,
That's a very good question.
Like phone or car and stuff, or just like social media or those kind
yeah, people are gonna spaz out, man.
What is technology?
everything.
Anything that has got to do with electricity.
Electricity is
So that.
technology.
That's what.
yeah, lights.
So your lights?
It's like
So we'll be going
What about
backwards.
mechanical things? Light is
Yeah, what about mechanical things like
Pulleys is technology.
pulleys? A pulley is technology?
A wheel.
No, wait. What
Wheels?
What they use is technology.
Well, what is technology?
Anything that has got to do with electricity.
Anything man-made.
Anything man-made.
Like a device or something.
Okay, a device of some kind. So like a tool?
Anything that has a function.
Anything that has a function.
Clothing or.
Clothing too? Okay, guys, clothing I think counts as technology. It's a tool that we use for warmth. Hand up if anyone want to live without technology still. Gets a bit odd.
You have to light up fires and all that.
You can't light fires without
That's
technology. You need a flamethrower.
That's a tool.
That's
I'm going backwards.
So when we talk about technology in the sense, we're talking about anything that's got to do with electricity.
Good. I really like that. Technology in the broad sense is any tool, right? Anything that we use as a device or an instrument or a tool to get something else. And in that sense, it includes clothes, etc. One of my favorite stimulus people, Elon Musk. Yeah, I keep referring back to him because he's just got heaps of good quotes. he says that, I totally forgot where I was going with this, but he thinks that everything that we use is a tool, right? Yeah? There's a really good quote, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Oh yeah, that's right. Because we wear clothes, we use glasses all the time. Elon Musk, and actually some other really important philosophers like David Chalmers, do you remember him?
Yeah.
He thinks that we're cyborgs already. Because a cyborg is someone who's integrated technology with their body or themselves in a way that makes it part of their identity, right? Well, there's an important sense in which my clothes are part of my identity, right? So Musk and Chalmers would argue that we're cyborgs already. And things like prosthetic legs, that's just another version of the technology that we include in our identity. Does that make sense?
Very cool.
Yeah. For Chalmers, things like maybe even notebooks or your OneDrive, your OneNote account might be part of like your memory system. Does that make sense? Like your notes that you write in your book right now might be part of your memory system because it's part of how you recall information. Yeah? Interesting. All right, we're going to go back to this. That was too much of a tangent for us to get through all of this.
That's pretty normal, sir.
All right, this bit is yeah, it's pretty normal, but I want to try and finish Nietzsche today. This next bit is important. In the brackets, are we up to there? Yep. Is a moralist not the opposite of a Puritan? That is to say, as a thinker who regards morality as something questionable, as worthy of question marks. In short, as a problem. A moralist for Nietzsche is someone who regards morality as a problematic discipline or a study of problematic ideas. Is moralizing not immoral? Yeah, so a Puritan would say you can't murder, you can't enjoy good food, you can't do all these things, right? And they're solid rules and they're unquestionable rules. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. For Nietzsche, though, a moralist is someone who questions what morality should be, who questions value. But because they question what morality should be, there's a sense in which it's immoral because it's challenging whatever the system of morality is. Does that make sense? So a Puritan says you can't eat chocolate, and a moralist says, why not? Yeah? And in a sense, that's an immoral thing to do because it's going against the current system of value. Does that make sense to everyone? Do you want to write down a note?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be very good.
Nietzsche says, moralists are inherently immoral because they challenge or question the current system of morality. The status quo. Has anyone heard the phrase the status quo before?
Yeah.
It means the way things are. If you challenge the way things are, you're challenging the status quo. If you don't challenge the way things are, the claim from a lot of people is that you're supporting the status quo. You're supporting the way things are to continue if it's not challenged. All right. Do you think Nietzsche likes the idea of challenging the status quo?
Yes.
Yeah, big time.
Big time.
He loves the idea of challenging values because that's about re-evaluating. Yeah? Remaking, reconfiguring values. Yeah? Deciding what values are and aren't important. Alright. Ultimately, they all want English morality to prevail. Inasmuch as mankind, or the general utility, like everyone's happiness, or the happiness of the greatest number, no, the happiness of England would best be served, so far as that is. They would like, with all their might, to prove to themselves that to strive after English happiness, I mean after comfort and fashion, and as the supreme goal, a seat in Parliament, is at the same time the true path of virtue. Indeed, that all virtue there has ever been on earth has consisted in just such a striving. Nietzsche is saying that English utilitarians think that the most moral thing to do is the thing that benefits the greatest number of people. But actually what they think makes the most people happy is to strive after, what does he say, comfort and fashion. Yeah? That's what the English philosophers think makes people happy. And the thing that would make you happiest is, it's a little bit of a dig here, but the idea is that a seat in Parliament is like every Englishman's ultimate goal, right? They want to be respected, they want to be powerful, they want to be comfortable. Yeah? So that's like the ultimate goal. And Nietzsche is saying that because they think morality is the same for everyone everywhere, and always has been, because they think morality is objective, goodness has always been goodness, it's part of the world, they think that everyone wants those things, really. Does that make sense? Cool, so for an Englishman, comfort and fashion is like an objective good, Nietzsche is saying. Does that make sense? Kind of. Should we write some notes?
Yes.
Alright. Let's write this. Nietzsche criticizes English utilitarians
Shall we finish?
You know how fun time editing this video?
What?
You're gonna see random pictures of cats out of the
Don't ruin it. See this guy. What is Abdul?
I mean, now I'm looking forward to it. But
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been an unpleasant spot.
Nah, it's Abdul. It's always Abdul.
That's good.
What?
Nietzsche criticizes English utilitarians, thinking that comfort and fashion are objective, eternal values. What does Nietzsche think about the idea of objective value?
It's not real.
It's not real.
It's not real, right? Because he's a moral what? Relativist, right? He thinks values are relative. Who does he think gets to decide what values are important? He thinks the herd can do it. He thinks that the powerful can do it. We're going to get to a section where he talks about how they get control, right? But he thinks that humans determine values. Yeah? He says that man is the creator of value. Without us, there wouldn't be any value, he thinks. And the consequence of that is that looks ridiculous. Yeah? Because if we're just making it up, of course it is ridiculous to say that anything is part of the world. Yeah? Good to keep going?
Yes, sir.
Not one of all these ponderous herd animals with their uneasy conscience who undertake to advocate the cause of egoism as the cause of the general welfare wants to know, or scent, or even hint at, that the general welfare is not an ideal or a goal or a concept that can be grasped at all, but only an emetic. The idea of the general welfare is not an ideal or a goal, but only an emetic. Does anyone know what an emetic is? I had to look it up. It's something that makes you vomit.
Gee, that's.
The idea of the general welfare, the greatest happiness, is not actually a real goal. It's just something that should make you vomit.
That's right.
Yeah? Let's keep going and finish this bit. That what is right for one cannot, by any means, therefore, be right for another. That the demand for one morality, and only one, for all, is detrimental to precisely the higher men. In short, that there exists an order of rank between man and man, consequently also between morality and morality. What do we think he means here? Ideas?
Morality is relative to person by person, so
Good.
there's obviously a difference between morality.
Good. There's different moralities for different people. Yeah? There's one morality. He says that there's an order of rank. What does that mean? Sorry?
Hierarchy.
There's like a hierarchy, right? There's people who are higher. He calls them higher men. What do you think he means by that? Top of the chain, higher in power, right? And then there's people who are lower in power.
Peasants.
And they have different moralities, and he thinks it's appropriate. Does that make sense? How are we feeling about Nietzsche at the moment? Interesting, weird. He's starting to sound pretty. Wait till he gets to the idea of masters and slaves.
Oh,
It gets more full.
The difference between me and
Okay, but the important bit was actually at the start of this little bit. Not one of all these ponderous herd animals with their uneasy conscience. Why would they have an uneasy conscience? They say they're about the general welfare. Why are they contradicting themselves?
They just want. Well, everyone has a will to power, so.
Good. Everyone has the will to power is exactly the phrase I was looking for there. He says they have an uneasy conscience because they say they're about the general welfare, but they don't even recognize in themselves that they're only doing it to get power for themselves. Now, maybe it's if they say that they're the servant of the people, they'll get voted in to be Prime Minister. But maybe it's even just that, even if they don't get to be Prime Minister themselves, they, as part of the herd, will dominate the stronger, more powerful people. Does that make sense? So a herd morality for Nietzsche is a way of all the weak people dominating the stronger people. Who does that remind you of?
Could it be our boy Caliph?
Callicles, right? Do you remember Socrates says, well, if leadership is about strength, aren't groups of weak people stronger than individual strong people?
Yes.
What does Callicles say? Yes, I suppose so, Socrates. Good. And here Nietzsche is embracing this idea. He's saying, actually, yes, groups of weak people are stronger than strong individuals, but let's not let that trick us about what they're doing. They're dominating. Yeah? Should we write some more notes?
Yes.
Brief notes? These eternal values. The concept
Apparently.
No.
Yeah.
Because we don't
No. Because I want to root for us to win the league. I don't want to root for us not to win the league, so I have to come on. What was that?
What was that?
We just sniffed the ball.
No.
It's never my idea. Unoriginal.
It's a good.
The silver lining, because I won't root for us.
So, the Colts and
Yeah, I heard it.
Liking this very. in line with what you're thinking. You were basically already saying this stuff.
Yeah. What Ramsey? You can swear out. Huh? It's a good thing, but it's a kind of being about. He's good. He has a lot. What do you mean?
Just for fun. It's for views. Yeah, for views. Just for fun. Yeah.
You learn from the best
I mean, yeah, apparently Eminem doesn't let his children swear.
What?
Eminem, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't let his children swear. Yeah,
Yeah. Did your parents want you to swear when you were younger?
No, like he's a rapper that only does this.
So the grown-ups went to do whatever they
I
want.
think it's not all about swearing.
Well, these days,
So it's
This
the
is
message
right.
behind the swearing.
This triggers me more. It's
quite
got
Kevin.
chicken.
You're a total fan.
Oh my god.
You have the trophies, you have the rights. That's what I thought.
He says that, but then
Keep
I
going.
didn't say anything.
You
He says that, but he.
The long you've gone for Man United, they haven't won anything. Apart from what? A couple of premiers?
Why are you guys calling me a bad man?
A couple premiers. So when you started? 2010 you said?
2009.
Yeah, but since what? 2014? 2013 they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Except for winning Europa League. So
And
you haven't
FA
won
Cup,
much.
and FA Cup.
And FA Cup.
And
You haven't-
Community Shield.
You haven't done much, you're not special.
What are you laughing at? You celebrated the Audi Cup.
He didn't celebrate it.
Yeah, he was like, oh yeah, we won the Audi Cup.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
You know why I'm laughing? Your team.
This guy's a madman. So let's see some soccer skills.
Yeah, let's
For the
see how
camera.
much you can juggle.
I'm already showing you my soccer skills.
For the camera?
Juggle.
Oh!
Is that to the fullest extent?
Yeah.
Ah.
I think I just proved that there's an order of rank among men.
Oh yeah, Mr. Have you marked that socks yet?
No.
Just straight up.
Very honest.
Straight up, no.
Someone else
Wait,
asked and I say
fine.
yes.
Alright, how many percent of the sacks have you marked?
Around 0%.
Abdul,
What?
my mandom's a parent. Alright?
Yeah,
He's got some responsibilities.
I didn't deny that, Jeremy.
He's got some responsibilities now. Give him
Yeah,
the
sorry
time.
guys, have a good one.
That's all.
I'll get them done before you next day.
That was a little one.
Hopefully.
Before next
So it's not next second, maybe next term.
It might be.
Can we like have it last day or Friday?
No.
No.
Yeah, no, last day in class.
No.
Last day in class.
That would be my ideal. If we
Yeah.
get up to it and we can do it last day of the
I don't
term,
wanna
that would
do
be
two
my
sets
ideal.
In class, Kev.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's
We have another
impossible.
2 sacks.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
Good to keep going.
No, contemporary examples as well.
Why is there a
Yeah.
sack on that? I didn't get it.
Because it's area study 2.
Yeah.
Wait, can't you just put like both the sacks in one sack? Why don't you just combine
No.
it?
No.
That's too
Too
long.
We can do a 5-hour stack.
No, I'd rather.
That's it. I think we all rather
Really?
not do that.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Ready to keep going?
Yeah.
Yes.
They are, the English utilitarians, they are as modest and thoroughly mediocre average species of man, these English utilitarians. And as aforesaid, as I said before, insofar as they are boring, one cannot think sufficiently highly of their utility, their usefulness. One ought even to encourage them, which is in part the objective of the following rhymes. He's written a little rhyme about how boring they are. Here we go. Hail, continue, which means like honor, continual plotters, honor, lengthen out the tedious story, the tedious tale. Pedant, which means like someone who nitpicks tiny little problems that don't matter. Pedant, still in head and knee, dull of humour, not a trace, permanently commonplace.
Oh.
Oh, sans genie et sans esprit, without genius and without wit.
Woo!
without spirit.
Now I know why you diverge.
I can just imagine Nietzsche
Huh?
6,
Now
7
I know
minutes
why you
room.
divergent.
Like, so shown.
Exactly. Alone in his barn. Alright.
What did you say? Say that to my face.
And he will do.
Do we all understand that this is, he's saying that the reason that they're valuable is because no one will ever pay attention to their system of morality because they're so boring. Yeah? Alright, bit of a burn from Nietzsche. Ready for section 260?
A bit?
We shouldn't go for Kev. We shouldn't go for Kev. Because Kev's not easy tax.
Yes, he is. He's just not good.
Huh?
Alright, ready for 260?
This guy.
Here we go. In a tour through the many finer and coarser, which means like better and worse, better and more detailed and rougher, moralities which have before now prevailed or still prevail, are still around on the earth, I found certain traits recurring regularly together and connected with one another, until finally two primary types revealed themselves to me and a radical distinction was brought to light. There is master morality and slave morality. So let's write those two down as a start.
Here we go.
Alright, this is a long section and there's a really short one at the end. Master morality and slave morality. Nietzsche isn't saying that there's only two kinds of morality in the world. He's saying there are heaps of moralities, heaps of systems of value, but if you look at them all of them fall into one of two categories. There's categories of moralities that are master moralities, and then there's a category of moralities which is slave moralities. Does that make sense to everyone? Not everyone's morality is the same. Maybe some cultures value like bravery, other cultures maybe value like really good clothing and fancy dress more, etc., right? But you can categorize all of them into master or slave moralities. Here we go. I would at once add, however, that in all higher and mixed civilizations, there are also attempts at the reconciliation, the bringing together of the two moralities. But one finds still oftener the confusion and mutual misunderstanding of them. Indeed, sometimes in their close juxtaposition, like there might be a master and a slave standing right next to each other, but even within the same man, within one soul, one person can value elements of a master morality and elements of a slave morality, and they can be in tension with each other. The distinctions of moral values have either originated in a ruling class of people, pleasantly conscious of being different to the ruled, or among the ruled class, the slaves and dependents of all sorts. Let's do a quick note for that. Master moralities are systems of value. Developed by the ruling class. Slave moralities.
If you do that, bro.
Why?
I got this video of you punching a scheme.
Well, are you gonna show that?
I got the picture of you in trying to take the photo.
What for it? What are you guys on about? What for it?
Yeah.
What? That's a goal.
Go. That's us, dude.
Ronaldinho left the chat.
I got that one.
Which one are you guys on about? Show me.
I don't know my phone on me. Remember that meme Jason put?
Yeah.
Teacher, pull out your calculator, so I'll do it.
Or which subject is this?
No, Jason for maths.
Methods.
No, Jason Lee.
Yeah, Jason Lee, I know.
Yeah, he made this meme. It was like, teachers say pull out your calculator, and then Abdul, it's like
yeah. I saw that one. Yeah, it's a lot.
Wait, when did he make this video? I haven't even seen it.
It's a lot of bullshit. Okay, yeah. I'll show you. It's like, yeah.
oh. This Abdul man. You can go.
All right.
Let's go.
In the first case, when it's the rulers who determine the conception good, when rulers determine what good is, it is the exalted, proud disposition, which means like personality, which is regarded as the distinguishing feature, and that which determines the order of rank. When the ruling classes get to decide what good is, it's about having a personality or a disposition like a ruler. Yeah. The noble type of man separates from himself the beings in whom the opposite of this exalted, proud disposition displays itself. He despises them. I think there should probably be a comma in there. He despises who? Who does the ruler despise? The slaves, right? Because he sees them as other to him.
Last one, you were just randomly in capitals.
Sorry, say again.
Why are so many words just in capitals? Is that how it was written, or just keep points?
No, that's just how he wrote it.
So it's just like, he just screams.
He really wanted to.
He's just slaves!
Remember, he was a professor of language, right?
Master morality and slave morality.
Exactly. He's just emphasizing what it is. But I guess you can imagine him a little bit like an angry grandpa.
I imagine him
First
screaming
applies to
over.
men.
Do you guys know anyone, particularly maybe someone who's from like an older generation who always writes in all caps?
No.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
The
Gyms.
That's what they're called. The people who try to use the internet. They're called gyms.
Can you imagine if every second word you said, you alternate between like shouting and like a normal voice?
Give us an example.
Someone had a button that was constantly
Wait,
pressing.
so I went to the shop, so wait, I didn't write it down.
I
Went.
I went to the shop.
I don't know why we've gotten here, but
Wait, so it's like this.
What did you write
I
down?
went to the no. I went to the shop.
I can't imagine that again. All right, moving on. Let it at once be noted that in this first kind of morality, the antithesis, as in the opposites of good and bad, mean practically the same thing as noble and despicable. The antithesis of good and evil is of a different origin. So let's write that for master morality.
Oh, man.
Good and bad equals noble and despicable. If you're a ruler, you define goodness as being noble, and you define badness as being despicable. Nietzsche says. Now, pay attention to the word bad. You have to use the word bad. You can't use the word evil because Nietzsche says that's different. For slave morality, we have good and evil. And we'll fill this in a minute. How do you think Nietzsche feels about the slave classes? Yeah, he thinks they're weak and pathetic and despicable, right? He thinks that herd animal people are bad. Yeah? you might not necessarily agree. You might not just assume that anyone who doesn't have power is despicable, right? This might be a point at which you criticize Nietzsche. Yeah? And probably most people would. Obviously Nietzsche would say that most people are the herd, so who cares? But
Why is a slave not despicable?
why is a slave despicable?
Not despicable.
You might not find them despicable. That might be one
Is that your
reason.
reasoning? I don't find them despicable.
Do you find the herd, do you find the average person despicable, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
If you do, maybe you're into a master morality, according to Nietzsche, right? But maybe you think that this whole system is a bit bogus. Let's keep
I
going.
think the best thing to do is disagree with everything.
The cowardly, the timid, the insignificant, and those thinking merely of narrow utility, like pleasure and pain, are despised. Moreover, also the distrustful with their constrained glances, the self-abasing, the people who put themselves down, the dog-like kind of men who let themselves be abused, the mendicant flatterers, and above all, the liars. It's the fundamental belief of all aristocrats that the common people are untruthful. We truthful ones, the nobility in ancient Greece, called themselves. This last bit's important for master morality. It's obvious that everywhere the designations of moral value were at first applied to men and were only derivatively and at a later period applied to actions. Let's imagine that you've got some like very pre-industrial society where everyone's organized themselves into some sort of hierarchy, and you've got like the rulers of the castle, and you've got all the peasants, right? And let's just imagine that they have no system of morality. Let's imagine that they have no system of value, right? You've got the ruling lords, maybe some knights, and then you've got all the peasants. And they have no system of morality, and so they have to come up with one. Nietzsche thinks that we have to make up a moral system. He thinks that that's part of what being human is. Yeah? And so, because we have no point of reference, we have no framework, we just make it about ourselves. We're like, well, I guess goodness is me. And I guess badness is them. Does that make sense? That's how Nietzsche thinks that value originates. Goodness is us, badness is them. Yeah? And because Nietzsche thinks there are two fundamental categories of person, masters and slaves, us is always good, and them is always bad or evil. It's bad if you're a ruler and you look down on people as despicable. It's evil if you're a slave and you look up at people as powerful and abusing their power. Yeah? Alright, let's keep going. It's a gross mistake, therefore, when historians of morals start with questions like, why have sympathetic actions been praised? It's silly to ask, why do we praise the actions? Because the noble type of man regards himself as a determiner of values. That'd be a good sentence to highlight. The noble type of man, I'm able to write it up here. The noble type of man regards himself
Abdul would be a pundit on Square Schools. You'd be
as
a
the
pundit.
determiner of values.
And you just be like, yeah, look, Gary, I agree with you.
You should agree with everything Gary says. We Gary's left at right hand line.
A Bruce Spurs. They're a pathetic team. Useless bunch of blokes.
But they're better than you guys, like much better recently.
We're higher than you guys on the ladder as well. Spurs. All games in.
No.
Who are you talking
First
to?
game in, we're higher than second, third,
Is that
fourth.
slave morality?
Who's
The equals that?
who's
It's
top?
not-
Yeah, you don't have that question. No one cares about you. You're irrelevant.
You finished in the
Master morality,
They're all
nobles,
but they just can't
the
say
aristocrats, the
they're
rulers, regard themselves as determiners of value.
We don't have to say
He's
right?
made of relevance.
Sorry?
So what's this?
We haven't filled this in
Oh,
yet.
okay, okay.
We've got a box here, we're going to fill in. Come back.
You won the Champions League. You're not relevant. We signed down the James. We're relevant.
We're the Premier League.
Let's keep reading because it makes more sense as we go.
Who's good?
So, the noble type of man regards himself as a determiner of values. It does not require to be approved of. He passes the judgment what is injurious to me, what hurts me, is injurious in itself. Anything I think is bad because I don't like it, it's bad in itself. He knows that he is himself. It is he himself who confers honor on things. He is a creator of values. So the master knows he is the creator of values. I don't know if you know this, guys, but probably if you put most teachers in the school, if you suddenly made them principal, their area of study would probably suddenly have a bit more funding. Maybe more teachers, maybe you'd run more classes.
What is
Like if you put if you made a drama teacher our principal at our school, they would probably give some more funding to the production.
Mr. Alexander.
If you made me principal of the school, we would probably run year 9 and 10 electives for philosophy. And I would hire more philosophy teachers.
Make it compulsory.
Right?
Make it compulsory. Make it compulsory.
Part of that, if I think that morality is relative, or that what's valuable in a school is just a relative thing, and I was a noble in that sense, I would just be saying, yeah, there are lots of different ways you can run a school. And the reason it's better to have more philosophy at a school is because I like philosophy. Does that make sense? I'd be a creator of values. Whereas the slave way, the herd way, would be to say that philosophy is the best way for everyone, regardless of where you are, and we're just trying to do what's best for everyone. Right? I'm trying to live up to some external standard. Yeah? It's not about what I want. It's not about me. It's about preparing students for their lives. Yep.
What about the egotistical altruism? If the whole world is better, then you will receive a benefit.
If the whole world is better, then you'll get a benefit from that. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think that's probably still a herd morality. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because it's still like an external standard, even though you're kind of selfishly interested in achieving that. Yeah? You might want everyone to be happy just because then if everyone's happy, you'll be happier. Yeah? But it's still about everyone else being happy. Maybe, yeah, probably. Probably. Maybe not. That's a really interesting case. Should we get going?
Yes.
He honors whatever he recognizes in himself. Such morality equals self-glorification.
Yes, sir.
In the foreground, there's a feeling of plenitude, of power, which seeks to overflow, the happiness of high tension, the consciousness of a wealth, which would fain give and bestow. The noble man also helps the unfortunate, but not, or scarcely, out of pity, but rather from an impulse generated by the superabundance of power. He's saying that noble people help the lesser people, but not because it's a moral requirement, just because they have so much power and they enjoy exercising that power. Yeah? They're like, oh, I see you down on the street, you're homeless and I have 5 houses, and I enjoy my ability to exercise my power by giving you $200 today. Yeah? So they do it as an expression of power, of a superabundance of ability. Does that make sense? Not because it's morally required. Let's write this one down quickly. The noble man may act charitably if they desire, if he desires. But to act charitably is an expression of power, not a moral requirement.
He's actually really low.
Good memories.
There's some.
Let's write qualities of the noble, because Nietzsche's finally going to be a little bit specific about what he thinks makes you a noble person, or what he actually values in people. The noble man honours in himself the powerful one. The noble man honours in himself the powerful one. Him also who has power over himself. Who knows how to speak and how to keep silence. Who takes pleasure in subjecting himself, underline himself, to severity and hardness. And has reverence for all that is severe and hard. What's Nietzsche talking about valuing? Self what? Self suffering. Suffering, good. Or self-overcoming. Do you guys remember that phrase? Self-overcoming. It's in the textbook, maybe look that up a bit later. Or self-discipline, right, is what he's talking about. The ability to put yourself through struggle to become better. Yeah? Wotan placed a hard heart in my breast, says an old Scandinavian saga. It's thus rightly expressed from the soul of a proud Viking. Nietzsche really likes the idea of a proud Viking, right? An individualist who takes power and uses discipline to elevate themselves, right? Does anyone know who Wotan is?
The Wotan clan.
No, Wotan became Woden, and Woden became Odin. You guys know who Odin is?
Yeah.
In Norse mythology, the father of Thor, the lightning god, who's in Marvel now, right? Yeah? Do you guys know what day is Odin's day?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, because Odin used to be Woden, right? And Woden became Wedden, and Wedden's day became Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah? Tuesday, anyone know whose day that is?
Yeah.
Thor's day? No, Thor's day is Thursday.
Yeah.
Who's Tude?
Tyr. He was a god of war and pride.
Nice one. Monday, Friday. Friday was Freya's day. I know, Freya's like the god of beauty. So that's like Freya's day. Saturday's another one as well. And Sunday is just literally, it's the sun.
It's Thursday.
Day for the sun. Right? Saturday might actually come from the idea of a Sabbath day, which is a Christian like rest day as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know what Monday was, but it's probably another Norse god.
I think it's the moon.
The moon god. Nice, like moon day. Nice, so Sunday and moon day. That's kind of nice.
Wow, didn't know that.
I never thought of it that way.
That's pretty cool, eh? Anyway,
Wednesday.
Nietzsche really likes the idea of a proud Viking who has a hard heart, like a heart of brass, right? Why do you think he likes a heart of brass so much?
Because he can handle the responsibility of being a leader.
Good, it can handle the responsibility of being a leader, but also like the suffering that goes with that responsibility, right? Importantly. Okay, so a leader, a noble, is someone who can deal with suffering. Yeah. Such a type of man is even proud of not being made for sympathy. The hero of the saga therefore adds warningly, he who has not a hard heart when young will never have one. Does that remind anyone of anything we've read?
Callicles.
Aristotle?
Aristotle? How come?
You have to train to virtue yourself from when you're young.
Good, otherwise it's too late for you. You have to habituate yourself towards virtuous action, to having a good character when you're young. Nietzsche agrees. Yeah? It's really helpful, he says, to have a hard heart when young, or if you're too sympathetic as a kid, if you go around like sharing your toys maybe, that's done. Yeah? You won't be a hard-hearted person. So, qualities of the noble. Nietzsche values a hard heart.
Is it okay to go away? I don't see.
To resist, sympathy, and embrace struggle. We all know how Nietzsche feels about suffering, right? Yeah. All right. The noble and brave who think thus. I'll give you a second.
Let's go. Get up there.
Pundit. He would just be going over our hand.
Alright, here we go. The noble and brave who think thus are the furthest removed from the morality which sees precisely in sympathy or in acting for the good of others, or in disinterestment, he means in yourself, in your own goals, the characteristic of the moral, as in a morality that values sympathy for others, most highly. Faith in oneself, pride in oneself, a radical enmity, hatred, and irony towards selflessness belong as definitely to noble morality as do a careless scorn and precaution in presence of sympathy and the warm heart. Saying that some key features of master morality are pride in yourself, interest in your own goals, furthering your own ends. Yeah? And to do this, you have to have a sort of scorn, a sort of disgust for anything sympathetic or warm-hearted.
No wholesome groups.
This is so sad.
Yeah, it's a bit sad, isn't it? It is a bit. That's actually a really good point. He thinks that any sympathy or warm-heartedness towards others is characteristic of like a really weak morality, right? Maybe tells you a little bit about how lonely this guy was. Does that make sense? Yeah. But he embraced the loneliness as part of his system of value. Yeah. It's the powerful who know how to honour. It is their art, their domain for invention. The profound reverence for age and for tradition, all law rests on this double reverence. The belief and prejudice in favour of ancestors and unfavourable to newcomers is typical in the morality of the powerful. And if reversely, men of modern ideas believe almost instinctively in progress in the future and are more and more lacking in respect for old age, the ignoble origin of these ideas has complacently betrayed itself thereby. Really quickly, Nietzsche is saying that we can recognise master moralities in tradition, in old ways, and anyone who says that they're for progressiveness or progress, society's progress, has already betrayed themselves as having a herd morality at the time. Okay, let's briefly, really quickly write a note about that. Even really quickly like this: traditional ways equal nobility, progress equals herd morality. Yeah, I don't think we're going to finish today, unfortunately.
We'll have one more page. We'll finish this section, but not the last one.
Yeah, we'll be close.
Yeah, we'll finish everything.
We'll finish what we started.
I don't
We're not leaving until we finish what we started.
We could just go into other stuff.
No, I'll play soccer.
Alright.
It's football, not soccer.
Good one.
Where are we? Yeah. A morality of the ruling class, however, is more especially foreign and irritating to present-day taste in the sternness of its principle. Its principle that one has duties only to one's equals, that one may act towards beings of a lower rank towards all that is foreign, just as seems good to one, or as the heart desires, and in any case, beyond good and evil. He's saying that if you're from a master morality, you understand that your peers are only people with as much power as you, and any way that you act to people who are lesser is not a moral consideration. It's just up to you. You should just do what you want. Yeah? Question, Jordan?
That sounds horrible.
Does sound horrible, doesn't it? Why is it horrible? Can you explain?
Well, I mean, especially for the times when they were slaves.
Totally.
And like, how do you tell how much power you have? Like, is there a distinctive way to do that? Because you could just say you have more power.
I guess, how could you tell how much power you have?
Money.
Status, money. You try and use it, right?
Yeah.
You have as much power as you can use.
Abuse it.
Yeah? So Nietzsche is saying that if you're powerful and there are slaves around, right, and you can order them to do things and they have to listen, if you can exercise power, then you have it. If you want to treat lower classes of people however you like, you can with a master morality. Because master morality says, I am good, anyone who's not like me and my peers is bad. There's also a really good way to encourage racism.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, like the Italian.
Yeah, me and my peers are good, you and your peers are bad. Anyone who looks like me is good. Anyone who doesn't look like me is bad.
Oh, we get scared the other
Yeah? Nietzsche is saying if you're a creator of values and you have as much power as you want, this is what you can do with your system of morality. Everyone feeling a little bit more uncomfortable about Nietzsche now?
It's got a rap on the
A reach?
Well, what would you say about like Hitler?
Yeah, the Hitler, actually, back again.
He hated Hitler. He really didn't like him. Hitler was around.
How do you know Hitler?
He wasn't really around, but the Nazi Party and the ideas were around. He didn't really like the Nazi Party at all.
Why?
I don't know how he'd feel about Hitler. Honestly, I don't know how Nietzsche would feel about Hitler. I think, like I said at the start, right, Nietzsche was a really smart guy. He has a lot of really important things to say about morality, but let's not confuse that necessarily with me necessarily agreeing with everything he says, or even a lot of what he says. Yeah? He raises some really important questions about whether morality is relative. If morality is relative, maybe we can. Maybe we are the creator of values. If we are the creator of values, who's to say that Hitler's way is worse than our way? Obviously, it's just us. And the only reason we're saying that his way was bad is because it's not our way. It's just us saying, us good, you bad. But that's kind of exactly what racism is, right? So Nietzsche raises some really important points. But please don't take that to mean that I think Hitler was a great guy. Please don't take that to mean that.
Crop it out.
Hitler was a terrible person, who committed was the leader of one of the most atrocious acts, if not the most atrocious acts humans have ever done.
If Hitler came to you and said sorry, would you kill him or not?
Oh, that's a hard
I
question.
feel like we've discussed this before.
Yeah, but Mr. never gave his point of view.
Oh yeah, he never did.
That's true.
We're holding him up. We're holding him up.
Megan knows me so well. Here we go. So, beyond good and evil. All right, let's do that. Nobles can act towards their lessers as they please, and their actions are beyond good and evil.
No progress. And then we're
towards their law.
Toward the
Lesser. Testers are the best.
Testers. Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's pretty cannibalistic. What do you mean? He said I'm.
I thought you called Nietzsche.
What?
All right, apart from this exact expression of beyond good and evil, right? This exact expression being the idea that nobles can act towards their lessers however they like. Let's just separate from that for an idea. If you're a moral relativist, if you think that there's no necessarily objective values, morality isn't part of the world, you're almost committed to the idea that we have to go beyond the idea of objective good and evil, which means that we can determine values. Maybe there is some sort of common values from our common humanity, like our nature, or something like that. Like maybe we're all built to value certain things, like ice cream. Yeah? But if there are some humans who don't like ice cream, that's probably not part of our species-wide set of values. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we can have no objectivity beyond what's common to our nature if you accept that moral relativism is the way moral facts work. All right. It's here that the sympathy and similar sentiments, similar ideas, emotions can have a place. The ability and obligation to exercise prolonged gratitude and prolonged revenge, both only within a circle of equals. Artfulness in retaliation, refinement of the idea in friendship. There's a certain necessity to have enemies because you need outlets for the emotions of envy, quarrelsomeness, arrogance. In fact, in order to be a good friend, all these are typical characteristics of the noble morality, which, as has been pointed out, is not the morality of modern ideas and is therefore at present difficult to realise and also to unearth and disclose. He's saying that you're allowed to be sympathetic if you want, but it's not a moral impulse if you're a noble. Yeah? It just comes from a superabundance of power. But the things that are moral are the way you act towards your equals, your peers. You need to have artfulness in retaliation. You need to have refinement in the idea of friendship. There's a necessity to have enemies because you need to act with envy, quarrelsomeness, arrogance. And you need to have enemies to be able to be a good friend, right? He thinks that being a human is embracing these qualities. Being a noble human for him is embracing these qualities. It's a little bit of a weird little section there. We might just get going. He doesn't think that that's the system of morality that exists in Europe when he's writing. He thinks that that's like an old version of morality that's been taken over in Europe when he's writing. So, it is otherwise with the second type of morality, the slave morality. Supposing that the abused, the oppressed, the suffering, the unemancipated, the unfree, the weary, and those uncertain of themselves should moralize, what will be the common element in their moral estimates? If you got everyone who was a slave in a certain society, and you said there's no such thing as morality, but now you get to create some values, now you get to determine what goodness and badness is, goodness and evil, what would you come up with? Probably, he says, a pessimistic suspicion with regard to the entire situation of man will find expression. Perhaps a condemnation of man together with his situation. The slave has an unfavourable eye for the virtues of the powerful. He has a scepticism and distrust, a refinement of distrust of everything good that is there on it. He would try and persuade himself that the very happiness there is not genuine. On the other hand, those qualities which serve to alleviate the existence of sufferers are brought into prominence and flooded with light. It's here that sympathy, the kind helping hand, the warm heart, patience, diligence, humility, and friendliness attain to honour. For here, these are the most useful qualities and almost the only means of supporting the burden of existence. Slave morality is essentially the morality of utility. Worth underlining that bit. So according to Nietzsche, slaves are going to value things like being friendly, being warm, and basically just relieving fear and suffering in any way. Why? Because it's what they want. People who are oppressed naturally don't want to be oppressed anymore. So they develop a system of values that enables them to get what they want, to express their will to power, which is to not feel oppressed. Everyone good? Sweet. Let's write that briefly, or I'll write these up and you can choose to write them or not. I'll post these notes as normal. Slave morality values that which the herd values.
Do you like expressions? Yeah. The hair on the bench. Looks like a civil word.
Release from suffering.
Platform.
Yeah, the winning goals is
Like hair sounds like office.
Yeah.
What? Winning goals. And the hair was on the bench.
Oh.
Are you doing this? Did you put this up?
No. How many the hair might leave in the bed? You ready? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Look at my Sarabia ones next year.
No, that's
Are you supposed to?
it's wrong. It's baby.
I have too much.
You missed that. Will you take them on the hospitals? Possible.
So dangerous.
Sympathy and comfort.
Yeah, sympathy and comfort, power and dangerousness is good and evil for slave morality.
How's he started?
Let's try and finish this page.
Let's finish
Yeah,
off saying.
Well, we can try and finish it.
I think we can. See the oneness. See, is that some word?
Let's go Super Saiyan.
Is this the number I got? Yeah, he has to explain it. It doesn't be left that.
No, you should be right. What's that?
Do you?
Alright. The contrast attains its maximum when, in accordance with the logical consequences of slave morality, a shade of depreciation, and maybe slight and well-intentioned, at last attaches itself to the good man of this morality. Because, according to the servile, the servant-like mode of thought, the good man must in any case be the safe man. He is good-natured, easily deceived, perhaps a little stupid. He's the fella. That means, like the bloke or the chum. Everywhere the slave morality gains the ascendancy, language shows a tendency to approximate the meanings of the words good and stupid. He's saying that because for a slave morality, goodness equals safety, equals sympathy, equals what doesn't make us fear, well, we don't fear someone who's capable, who's powerful, right? What we don't fear is someone who's average, who's mediocre, who's normal, who's powerless, right? That's who safe is. So that becomes who's good. So goodness becomes stupidity, says Nietzsche. Does that make sense? No? Alright, slave morality defines all value in terms of what hurts and what doesn't hurt. Does that make sense? That's in contrast with a noble morality. Noble morality says that what hurts is good if it leads to growth, right? Yeah, if it leads to us having power. I'm allowed to hurt other people because it's an expression of power. But as a herd morality says no, what we value is safety, people who are friendly, people who are warm-hearted, etc., right? And it's a little bit scary when someone is really intelligent. It's a little bit scary when someone is really good with a bow and arrow. It's a little bit scary if someone is really capable and we're not. That makes us feel bad, that makes us feel hurt, that makes us feel fear. Because of that, Nietzsche says the slave defines evil as capable and powerful, and defines goodness as being average, being medium, being non-scary, which here he thinks means being stupid. Yeah? The fella, like the chum, your friend from down the road that you get on well with. Yeah? A last fundamental difference. This is a really interesting one, actually, in terms of the way he thinks about freedom. The desire for freedom the instinct for happiness and the refinements of the feeling of liberty, feelings of freedom, belong as necessarily to slave morals. He thinks that a desire for freedom is a value of a slave. As artifice and enthusiasm in reverence and devotion are the regular symptoms of an aristocratic mode of thinking and estimating. Hence, we can understand without further detail why love as a passion, it's our European speciality, must absolutely be of noble origin. As is well known, its invention is due to the provincial poet cavaliers, these brilliant, ingenious men of basically poetry, to whom Europe owes so much and almost owes itself. Nietzsche is saying that to be a noble is to limit yourself, is to force yourself to struggle through pain, and is to almost inherently be not free. You have to force yourself into constraints to enable growth, to enable the maximizing of your power, and in a sense you're not free because of that. Nietzsche thinks a desire for freedom, for release, for sympathy, for release from fear, is all symptomatic of a slave morality. Make sense?
Isn't that kind of like
Sorry?
Aristotle, like
Aristotle's definitely into doing the hard things at times, right? For sure. And Socrates is really into self-discipline as well. Yeah. Do we have time to finish?
No, we have 1 minute.
1 minute.
30 seconds. A minute to win it.
Okay, can you on the next page just write one word for me?
Homework.
Just write, I'm going to write rhetoric, question mark. Just rhetoric, question mark. And I'd like you to read it for Monday.
Alright.
So you write your question mark.
So which part do we
I've got good practice with question marks because it's most of philosophy is just questions, right? Yeah, good job today, guys. We got through a whole bunch.
No worries.
Have a good one.
Put in a shift for the words.
You already know.
Jeremy, do you need a copy of this? I printed more.
Oh no,
Nick, oh, yeah. Anyone else need a copy of this?
no.